Hey guys, it's Ian Benjamin, BDPN. Hope everyone's all right. Today we have another day in the live interview. I'm blessed. I'm working with or interviewing Kwesi. This is another must-listen interview for you individuals to add value, to inspire you and other members, as we need to kind of celebrate individuals' successes and members of the group. So Kwesi spent 17 years at the NHS. That was his last gig, his last role, assistant director of programs. Big deal, right? And before early this year, he transitioned into a new role, executive director for digital marketing for the charity called Scope. It's like a disability charity based in the UK. So Kwesi, born and raised in East London. He's a family man. He's married. He's got two kids. So we're having a chat today where we'll be sharing his journey, insights into his role at the NHS, which was managing colossal projects, aligning payments, etc., for 1.7 staff members, essentially, of the NHS. Right? I don't know whether I want to be responsible for that, but hey ho. And then just after COVID, part of a massive digital transformation project that he managed for the NHS. And where he's looking after 42 care systems throughout England. The project was like 12 months in length, maybe a bit longer, managing budgets, hiring a team and overseeing a wider team of like 70 plus individuals. But what I love is that Kwesi, during that interview process, he assembled a team of 4 Black employees who are part of the interview panel, which is amazing. So well done. Thank you for that. And but anyway, look, without further ado, I wanted to kind of set the scene to give you guys an understanding of who, of the profile of the individual of who we're going to be interviewing today. So without further ado, Kwesi, how are you? How are you doing today? You right?
Ian, thank you very much, first of all, for this opportunity and to contribute to a very important network of the BDPN. I'm very well. It's been a busy time, as everyone's busy at this sort of time, isn't it? And I'm 4 months into this role now. So yeah, it's been a busy time, a good and exciting transition, but yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming along. Honestly, really means a lot. Means a lot. Thank you so much. Superb. So let's kind of unravel and have a little dig around. So because obviously working with the NHS,
Mm,
mainly white, a lot of white individuals, Asian, not many black faces rising through the
mm,
ranks, which is great. So you've done considerably well there.
mm.
So yeah, let's kind of kick it off with that. What was that like?
Yeah,
What was that
well,
like
that's
actually?
interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? Because recently we celebrated 75 years, especially those from a Caribbean background being here. One of the great things of that invitation to people from the Caribbean was to come and to support and work as part of the key workforce within the NHS, which was just kicking off.
Yeah,
So there have been Afro-Caribbean people from day dot. But as you rightly said, when it comes to the ranks, and when it comes to that sort of diversity, one thing I saw in my 17 years was that you got fewer Black, Brown, Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean faces as you went up in banding. And
yeah,
that's something I saw. Uh,
yeah,
so, so for myself, I remember going to meetings even just before leaving earlier this year. Could be a panel, could be a meeting with 25, 30 people at the band that I was at,
yeah.
people across the country, and I could be one or probably only 2 or 3 Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean faces.
Right. What was that
Which,
like? Kind of navigating that? I mean, so like just
yeah, it was challenging because I'm sure a lot of your listeners will understand sometimes when you do that, it can be not just intimidating, but you're thinking, okay, so it's important that I get my viewpoint across because it's important to be able to see representation, isn't it? When you're speaking
100%.
about what's going to impact on a population which is diverse,
Yeah,
isn't it? So it was challenging, but one thing I always did was remind myself that yes, I deserve to be there.
100%.
My
Because I was going to ask
credentials,
you about
my
that. So
experience. Yeah.
on occasions during that trajectory there, you were there for such a long
Mm,
time.
mm,
Was there moments where like imposter syndrome would kick in?
yeah. Oh, yes. Ian, of course, it did. And sometimes you think because you didn't see anyone with an Afro-Caribbean background, sometimes or very rarely thought, you did have that doubt. Well, should I be here?
Should you be there?
Should I be doing this? Can I get that role? Can I be able to step up? Because I don't see many others from an
Exactly.
Afro-Caribbean perspective. But speaking with a very good and progressive group of friends I have, other professionals, I was privileged at certain times to have a mentor from an Afro-Caribbean background, not all the way through my 17 years, but at very key moments actually. And they really were instrumental in helping me to say, Kwesi, be confident in your skin,
Yeah.
in your ability to contribute as well.
100%, 100%. I mean, without doubt. I mean, something that you got to do. But
Mm.
it's sometimes harder to say that. I mean, it's hard, it's easy to think that,
Yeah,
but when you're in the room,
it's
it's
hard.
harder to actually to become that person. You know what I mean? To kind of put that hat on and think, right, I deserve to
Definitely,
be here, and
definitely.
so well done for that. Well done for that. Okay, superb. So currently in your current role now, you're executive
Mm.
director for
Yeah,
digital marketing at Scope, which is the
yes,
disability charity.
yeah.
And so public sector into a
Hmm.
charity. Do you think was there like a link, was there a correlation between the two? How did that come about?
Well, how it came about actually is because at Scope, so Scope, as you said, Pan Disability charity, which supports pan disability across England. So if you think about how many people are classed as disabled within the country of England, it's 1 in 4. It's like 19 million people. So 1 in 4 people. And if you think, Ian,
Wow.
and if you're listeners, you think, oh, well, I'm not disabled. Okay. But do you not know anyone with a long-term condition, with a physical, mental health, or
Yeah,
other invisible disability? You most likely have a member of that in your
yeah,
family,
yeah,
especially us from
100%.
Afro-Caribbean, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of that. Certain long-term conditions are classed as disabilities because of the impact it has. So
Right.
really, disability touches all of us. So Scope, my uncle used to work for Scope. My uncle has cerebral palsy, Dave Crowell. And, if you think the late 90s, the challenges as a black man with a visible disability such as cerebral palsy, um, it really was a challenge for him to get a job, worthy of his skill set and what he had to contribute. And he worked at Scope actually for
Oh,
a
did
few
he?
years. So in our family, it's like a full circle for us of
Yeah,
me
yeah.
now working there.
Couple
So
cycle.
I've always had an affinity and a respect for Scope. And I
Right.
saw the opportunity for this hybrid role of looking after digital data and marketing. Um, and I thought, you know what, it's a challenge I want to do because really, I want to use my working years to be able to work on something which is aligned to my values of supporting those which are disadvantaged in
Yeah.
society. And disabled people across the board are disadvantaged in so many different areas. And I want to use my experience, my skill set to be able to push the needle and to fight for that equality that
Yeah,
disabled
definitely.
people deserve.
Fantastic. So I bet your uncle was over the moon, right? When he found out that
Oh, he was so overjoyed. And I think I've made him, my grandmother, even my grandmother, when my uncle was younger in his early 60s, she went around to lots of football clubs to raise money to get him a wheelchair because that provision of wheelchairs was not around
right.
when my grandmother first came over and had my uncle.
Gotcha.
So we've got a history of campaigning, of being able to champion the sort of marginalized voice in
Yeah.
community. So it's happy for our family.
Fantastic. So like you kind of, would you say that you're getting fulfillment on
Most
in a
definitely.
couple of areas in the
Yeah,
role?
definitely. And I think because Scope sort of emerging as an organization which looks at digital and data, coming here to be able to define what that digital strategy is, but also the data vision and the different data sort of enablement or infrastructure that should go into this charity to make it work optimally. It's a privilege to be able to have been selected and awarded this role to
Yeah,
be
that's
able to
good.
define that for the organization.
Fantastic. So are you part of it? I mean, you're driving the team, being in
Yeah,
that role. Is it a big team?
it's a small team, but it's a team which hopefully can grow. Um, Obviously, there are different constraints in charity with regards to funding, even more so
Yeah,
than in the
definitely. Sure.
NHS. But we're definitely making sure the pound goes further, so that we can get the right roles in. So, we will be looking to recruit. And again, Scope very much wants to be a legitimate and bona fide, diverse employer. So I will be looking to see how Afro-Caribbean digital data professionals, can come in to really be able to bring a richness to the workforce.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, let us know. I'm sure there'll be members
Indeed.
of the BDPN that we can distribute the role
Yes,
to. That'd be happy
indeed.
to kind of accommodate. Fantastic news. That'd be great. So Scope, they've got a good D&I outlook. You're content with their commitment to D&I.
Yes, most definitely. And I think sometimes you can go into an organization, can't you? And you can think, because I can't see many people from my background that they're not committed to that. But it was very clear, even from the interview process, of how committed they were to being there and understanding why and how they could be much more. And you don't have to go very far. We can look at some of the marketing campaigns that they've had and different campaigns. Whilst they've been diverse, there could be a lot more done to
Right.
be able to be richer
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Definitely.
showing that Scope wants to be that D&I employer.
Yeah. Definitely. I think a lot of companies, well, are on that journey, right?
Yeah,
George Floyd, BLM, massive
that's
change.
it.
But some companies are a lot further. A lot of companies are more authentic
Mm,
about it than others that are doing
mm,
more.
that's it. Authenticity.
What it's like. Fantastic. Right. Okay.
Mm,
Kind of getting into it from a data perspective.
yeah,
So with the current role now, your background in data
mhm,
was quite intensive. You
definitely.
had a lot of exposure to working with data, and
Mm.
is that helping you now in this current role? Because
Most definitely.
yeah,
Most definitely. I think some of the complex projects going back to sort of 2012 that I was managing, looking at data in the NHS, and you think 2012 is 11 years ago, and data really wasn't seen as king back then. But I was working on projects involving data, and I suppose that's where my interest was piqued about if you're making insight-driven, data-driven decisions, there's an expression, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't.
yeah,
And I think when you look at data, you can't argue with that. If you've got
yeah,
a service which is seeing 1,000 people a month, but should be seeing 3,000, you've got to act on that, haven't you? You can't look at that and think, oh yeah, we're doing as much as we can. And data has been key in my experiences, and also the reason why I got the role here at Scope.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you're kind of using that as well to because you speak about marketing, which is part of
Hmm.
your remit.
Most
So
definitely.
in terms of measuring the marketing and
Yeah,
understanding, yeah. So
all of that.
is it kind of like from a marketing perspective,
Hmm.
is the focus like B2B or from a funding perspective, and also B2C from an awareness perspective?
It's both. It's definitely
Yeah.
both. And I think Scope's really going on a journey with regards to fundraising and to understanding how we are engaging our supporters. Again, engaging supporters from Afro-Caribbean cultures. We know that disability is throughout Afro-Caribbean, but yet, how many Afro-Caribbean communities know about the work that Scope does, the range of services, the support it can do for neurodiversity, for all forms of disability. We know there's much to be done.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why we're just looking B2B, but as you said, looking at how we engage our supporters in general at all layers and also through our retail shops. We have
Gotcha.
170 charity shops across England. How do we really be able to look at our marketing to really engage different, diverse communities
Yeah.
to come into our shops and donate?
Gotcha. Because yeah, from my point of view, it's a charity that I was aware of.
Mm,
Do I see it enough? Probably not.
that's it.
Do you know what I mean? It's one of them ones, one of those like
Yeah.
peripheral type of.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Um,
Precisely.
it's one of
Precisely. And I'm, like I said to you, 1 in 4 has a disability. And within that 19 million people are going to be a very healthy percentage from non-white backgrounds and non-white communities. And there's a lot that we can be doing to be able to support and tell and communicate that out so that people are not struggling, suffering by themselves or in their own families, but there are services that Scope provides to be able to support people in that respect.
Yeah, no, it's obviously doing great work,
Mm.
doing great work there. Fantastic, fantastic. Oh, okay, fine. I want to kind of like probe a little bit and kind of find out, I mean,
Yeah,
a bit more about the NHS as well.
yeah,
That was such a beast, and
yeah.
obviously working on those projects. Um, what was it like? I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
we spoke about the 2012 to the current
yeah,
date, and in terms of the reliance of data. So,
yes,
did you see the emergence of it, where there was more
most definitely.
dependence on data, and
Yeah,
where it became that we're going to be making these decisions. We want to do this. We want
yeah,
to kind of digital transformation journey where digital is going to become a part of the NHS. When did
yeah.
that start to kind of kick in, and what sort of things did you have to look at and implement?
I think it started kicking off, even before 2012, probably, as I said, I've been in the NHS, I was in the NHS since 2005.
Right.
It was in that sort of 2010, 2011 areas. There's some, large national programs they tried to do didn't quite work, and they were quite publicly, sort of pulled through the mud in terms of not working. And sometimes at the root of the cause of the failure of those large national programs was not using data correctly, or not consulting the data and not really being able to make data-driven decisions. So I think over the years, what you saw was just data and digital become less of a asterisk or something for IT, and very much now, as you can see, is slowly emerging to underpin how organizations are driven, which is what you've got to do to be able to use public funds properly and be able
Mm.
to target services to where patients or people, citizens need to use them. So I
Yeah.
definitely saw that emerge.
Okay. And what was it? So, what made
Mm,
them do that? I mean, I know obviously a lot of other companies were making that transition.
yeah,
What was it that made the NHS do it? Was it like, were they just following suit and seeing
yeah.
that these decisions made by data
Mm,
were having um significant value? So, how did
yeah,
they? What made them kind of put more investment in it and more
yeah,
dependent on the? Do you know what? Actually, we're missing a trick
yeah.
here.
I think it's certain. I think, as you said, learn from industry, learn from sort of the big companies around the world in terms of how they were doing it. I think it was driven by what savings could be made, how innovation could be propelled by digital and data as well. When we think about something as serious as cancer diagnosis, like especially even in the news recently, we're seeing how artificial intelligence, in terms
Uh,
of being able to tailor those sorts of tools and systems and generative AI to be able to diagnose, pre-diagnose, to be able to look at trends and think that person in 5 years has an increased likelihood of bowel testicular cancer or any other form of cancer. It was the
mm.
potential of this is what it could do, and I think that's why the NHS started pumping more money and money into it.
Right, gotcha. So, well, it obviously, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Really, kind of speaks for
Yeah,
itself.
indeed.
It's a no-brainer. It's an
Yeah,
absolute no-brainer. Fantastic. And were obviously there's a massive emergence of AI and machine learning this year. That we're
mm,
all like ChatGPT, and there's all other different
yeah,
types of platforms coming about. Um, did you, before you left the NHS earlier 2023?
yeah.
But were the NHS kind of like moving towards AI, or was it already doing it? Was it a
Definitely, yeah. So about 5 years ago, actually,
right?
what was really interesting is that you sort of started seeing very small departments popping up within the central NHS function, looking at AI possibilities, the
Okay.
theory, what could be. And if you think technology has always been evolving, so sometimes plans that they'd have for the year had to be revisited, reshaped, just because of what was emerging. As you said, ChatGPT is coming forward now. IBM Watson again 6, 7 years ago,
Yeah, of
looking at
course.
other other things as well, and then NHSX as a department came into existence about 2018, and then now you see
So what did that do
established
then? So the
AI.
NHS, that Department X, so was that like,
NHSX, yeah,
so like a
NHSX.
data
Yeah,
technology
data,
division plugged in?
AI, that's it. Innovation, that's what they sort of specialized in. And in the last year and a half, obviously that was sort of re-merged back into NHS England to make sure that there was no, or to reduce the silos of working. That I think were sort of emerging because of this sort of department doing that. So they're trying to make it across innovation, digital and data across the whole of NHS England so that it would filter down,
Good,
yeah, more in a more equitable way.
good. I mean, we've got a collective group, an audience right now, growing
Mm,
BDPN members that are black data professionals, from analysts all the way up to we've got CDOs.
Yes.
and so forth. So, but kind of from a grassroots level, would
Yeah.
you recommend the NHS as being a company that individuals that are from an analyst level to look out for, to work for? Would you say it's
Most
yeah?
definitely. So there is something called the there's going to be a really large scale data platform that the NHS England is going to be sort of introducing. This data platform is essentially going to encourage all of the hundreds of NHS organisations to be data driven. They're going to need lots of data analysts, and the NHS does always say that it wants to increase diversity of that. So really, I would say now is the time to start looking at your local NHS organisation, NHS England, the integrated care boards, because there's 42 of them in England. They'll all be looking for data analytical qualifications and experience. So
Gotcha.
we would encourage people to look into that.
Fantastic. What's that called? That division or that?
So the data platform is a national data platform, and quite nice under procurement. So they're looking for a provider to develop this, massive system that's going to really be analyzing just reams and reams and reams of data from different areas and different formats to, as I said, make sure that NHS is looking at diagnoses to efficiency and automation.
Right.
So it reads across the board.
And that will be what helping people, helping patients, but also helping
Yeah,
drive efficiency
that's
internally.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
big
Superb.
things.
So, so
Mm.
that so that so that was kind of coming up as you were on the way
As
out.
yeah, as on the way out, yeah. So for the last 18 months, they've sort of been working and developing. And I had the privilege of being involved as part of my work there in that. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Gotcha. Superb. That sounds really, really good. Sounds
Mm,
really, really good.
mm.
So, and what would you say on a scale of 1 to 10
Yeah.
is the importance of upskilling? And
Hmm.
is that something that you do?
Yes.
Okay.
10 out of 10. In the terms of importance, 1 to 10 is 10. If you can, look at different data analyst, data science courses that you can do if paid ones, if possible. If not, there are lots of ones that are either low cost or free. I know that Amazon do data analyst type courses and data insights. Amazon, Microsoft, all of the big sort of companies do
Platforms.
sort of courses. Yeah, those are platforms. They do different courses of different data science. Look into doing that as much as possible. I will look at that and look at it in terms of with AI as well, because they really do go hand in hand in
Yeah.
terms of upskilling yourself. Always look for that. And if you're in a role, it's free to ask, am I able to do a course in data analysis or in, business analysis, with understanding data from a wider perspective?
Yeah.
It's free to ask your employer. If they
Yeah,
haven't got
definitely.
budget,
I think it's good
fine,
to
but
ask at
do
interview
ask.
stage.
Definitely.
It's good to
Yes.
ask. Yeah.
Ask at interview stage. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good to ask at interview stage. What's the opportunities like for that? I think it's always a good question to ask.
Mm.
Okay, cool. I mean, would you recommend any based on what you've experienced yourself?
Um, I can't think of the actual names, but there have been some excellent ones that I've done. I've had privilege of being able to do a couple of paid ones, but there was one from one of the big tech companies that it was like a generic one that gave you a good grounding, like a data analysis 101, and there was like a data analytics and data science, sort of like a 101. Great foundation if you haven't already. And they had much more sort of involved and in terms of sort of difficulty as well, content as it went up as well. So sort of anything around
Gotcha.
data analysis.
Okay, cool. Brilliant. Now you've been involved in some massive projects like
Hmm.
for the NHS. Huge numbers, huge people that you're managing. Um, what would you say has been the most rewarding, like self-achievement,
Yeah,
self pat on the back type of
yeah,
scenario? Which sort of
yeah.
project kind of that you've been involved in kind of
Of course.
gives you that vibe feeling?
Yeah. So for my last role, I for a good year and nearly a year and a half, I was responsible for the digital data and technology readiness program for all 42 integrated care boards within the country. So within an integrated care board sat all of the hospitals. And this was in preparation for the Health and Care Bill, which was going into law on the 1st of July 2023. So about 9 months previously, I was told there's a whole host of things we need to do from a digital data and technology perspective, but we don't know all of what we need to do. Some things we know and some things we don't know. So I had to do a scoping exercise. As part of that, I had to understand what's the team that I'd need in place. And that sometimes is an interesting one because you don't know the types of roles that you may need
Might need, yeah.
to scope out. And so I had to really draw upon my own experience, trust myself, and be able to then, again, be humble and look at other programs and speak to senior people to get a good steer. And
So how?
yeah,
Sorry to interject, but so
yeah.
did you look at programs outside the NHS or ones internal ones?
Yeah, no, I looked at programs outside the NHS. I looked at some programs there where you could see the whole journey, where to try and learn where they got things right and got things wrong. Um, no one is an island, man or woman. We always have to learn from things that have gone before us so that it can help us in our current role. And we should always be humble enough to learn from each other. And that's what I did. And thankfully it happened. So I had a program where we had 8 different strands. One of them was about configuring all of the systems that were managed across the NHS and that fed into these integrated care boards. So it impacted all patients that would go to any hospital, any sort of GP. They all had to be configured in a way and tested for coming of this law on 1st of July. So there was 112 different systems ranging from small cancer sort of systems that were set up in hospitals to, as you said, a system which paid all 1.7 million people in the NHS.
Right.
So, you know, making sure that that went right was important because if people's pay for 1.7 million people would have been big news, big news. And what was interesting, the suppliers never had worked together before. There were about 8 different suppliers, never worked with each other before. They'd never been brought together. So I had to very quickly be able to come up with a system where they respected me, respected each other, and we had the right governance in place to make sure the right data systems, the architecture was there to do the work. Very challenging.
Right.
Very, very challenging.
Yeah, well done. That's amazing.
You know?
That's amazing. Were you going to add to that as well?
Yeah, just going to say that, you know, but to do that, I had to have a good team. I had a good team, a good diverse team that I had. And you know, part of that, as I was saying, as you outlined at the beginning, I'm a big believer is you can't be something that you can't see. And what I mean by that is that when you go to interview panels and it's all of obviously maybe white or you know you don't see yourself represented, it's hard for yourself to be able to get an assessment of that company you're going to work for or of the role. So I purposely made a lot of the panels all black or all completely diverse. And I said, you know, an all black panel. I remember for one role, a program manager role, and it was a black man that got the position. He commented and said, listen, even if I don't get the role, to go to a panel where there's all black people was just encouraging. It helped me. And, you know, it made me think, well, I can go to those positions because all of those people looked like me. So that was something I was extremely proud of.
You know, now well done. That's amazing, you know, on behalf of the black population. Because I mean, I'm in recruitment and I mean, blimey, very rarely do we see individuals, multiple or majority black panels. Doesn't happen. You know, they're normally like 3 or 4 people, maybe, you know, at the high end of the panels, but I mean, but they're not going to have more than one black person there typically. Do you know what I mean? Very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. Do you know what I mean? Fantastic. Superb. So what's next for you then? What's next for you? You know,
developing digital strategy, data strategy, being able to engage the companies like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, IBM, because really and truly what needs to happen now for disabled people is understand how tech can do a lot more, configure their tools so that it helps and enables disabled people. Disabled people don't want to be pitied. They just want to be able to be given the opportunity to work equitably and for a fairer society. So that's what essentially I'll be doing. And I'll be holding an event hopefully in the new year here at the Plexel offices here where we're based in London and it will be around disability and championing that and diversity as well. So it'd be good to invite you as well.
Yeah, I'll be there, man. You know, I'll be there for that, man.
Yeah,
Definitely, without a doubt,
indeed,
100%.
indeed.
Yeah, brilliant, man.
Good stuff.
And to kind of wrap things up, I mean, in terms of we've got a growing audience, Black data professionals. What would you want to say to kind of like to sign things off to this
To
audience?
say, you know what, be humble, continue working hard. I know sometimes it may seem like there's lots of closed doors. There are, but more are opening up. And, you know, as you've seen with others, you know, some of the most senior positions in data and digital, we can definitely be there and we should be there. So keep going and continue to work hard and always reach out as well.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. Brilliant. Kwesi, thank you so much, man. I want to say thank you.
Bruv, no
Great
worries.
guest. Really informative. And
No
yeah,
worries.
we're gonna end this now. We're gonna share it. It's gonna be
Fantastic.
on the
Good
BDPN
stuff.
website and other little
Brilliant.
bits and pieces that we're doing. So
Ian, I'm being chased, my man, so I'm gonna have to fly off.
no
But
problem at all.
yeah, thank you very much, my
No
man.
worries, no
Thank you
worries.
very
All
much.
good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kwesi. I really appreciate it.